Okay, so I'll go ahead and get started because I'm just weary of time. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning to wherever you are in the world today. Welcome to the SpunkGo webinar. Today's speaker is Tehilla Aloni. She is the founder of Bioorigami of Business and a former Judo champion. So it's my greatest pleasure to welcome her to talk about her resilient transformation from Judo champion to business consultant. Just a side note, Q&A will be done through the chat feature after our presentation. SpunkGo is an all-girls group organization where proceeds go to charity. And with that, the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Netra. Today, I want to teach you a lesson that I learned at a later age, and I wish someone would have taught me that lesson when I was your age. This lesson is ancient Jewish knowledge that was only taught to sages during thousands of years, and now it's being released into the world. So this is when I'm going to begin, and this knowledge has changed my life. And I very much hope that after you hear this lesson, you will look at your entire life and everything that happens to you differently, just like I did. Each one of us has a soul, and each soul has a mission. Its mission is to bring its unique light into this world. However, in order to bring this light into the world, our vessels, the people that we are, our bodies, our minds, have to be strong and pure. Why? The purpose of the journey that we go through in our lives, the families that we are born into, our environments, our experiences, the challenges we face, the hardships we have, are all part of a greater plan. The purpose of this plan is in order to develop our vessels so that we can bring this unique light into the world. You see, everything happens for a reason. No matter how difficult or how painful what we go through, the purpose of it is in order for us to grow. Now you might ask, how do I know what my calling is in life? How do I connect with my soul? Now, these are very important questions, and they're questions that everyone's been asking themselves. As soon as you know that you're a soul, the first thing you want to do is to connect with it, right? Now, one of the ways that the soul speaks to us is through our burning desires. When we want something so much that it becomes almost an obsession. Now, when you have a burning desire and you're willing to do the work, you're willing to do your side of the bargain, that's when the entire universe comes to your aid. Because you and the universe, you and God, you have a common interest. You both want your unique light to come through the world, even though sometimes it might seem that you're totally unaligned and everything seems to be against you. The ultimate and highest purpose is for you to connect to your soul and bring your unique light into the world. When I was 4, I had a neighbor that she used to beat me up. She was 1 year older than me, and she used to train in Judo. And I also wanted to learn Judo because I didn't like it, the fact that she used to beat me up. And I asked my mom whether she would send me to Judo classes, and my mom said I had to wait till I went to school. So I waited patiently while she beat me up, and I kept on fighting back, but it wasn't good enough because I didn't have the knowledge, and she was older than me. And then finally I went to school and I was sent to Judo classes. I used to go twice a week with other kids my age. I was the only girl in the class. And soon enough, for a reason that I didn't understand, my coach, he put me in the big boys team. And that was very, very difficult. They were stronger than me. And I hated it. I used to come and it used to be painful. I used to lose. And I remember one day coming to him and I was crying. And I told him, why did you move me up to the big boys team? It's very, very difficult for me. And until this day, I remember his answer. I remember he looked at me. You know, he was this big, tough guy. He was wearing the judo clothes. And he told me, I put you here in the big boys team because I want you to be strong. If you train with these boys, when you come to fight kids your age, you play with them like toys. I remember him doing this motion with his hands. You play with them like toys. And that's when I understood. And I came to the judo classes and I came with a new mindset because I understood that this was preparing me for my other burning desire, because that's when my new burning desire started to develop. I wanted to be a judo champion. I wanted to be the Israeli judo champion. And this training, this difficult, rigorous training, was preparing me for that. Now, in addition to that burning desire, that was when I was about 10 years old, I had another burning desire. One of my friends was very rich. And her parents sent her abroad on holidays to summer school. And they went on holidays. And every time she used to come and she used to tell me about all these lovely experiences that she had when they went on holidays abroad and on the airplane. And at that time, it was also very, very expensive to travel abroad. And I was really, really jealous. And my family couldn't afford to send me to summer school or abroad. I remember we had a car. My mom drove around with a car that we used to call the Batmobile. And it was this old battered up car. And even when we were driving, I remember us kids, me and my brothers, we used to duck low beneath the window so no one would see us in this car. And when she used to drop me out at school, I used to ask her to drop me at the school far away so no other kid saw me coming out of that car. I was that embarrassed. So I couldn't see any option how I could fly abroad, even though that was definitely a burning desire that I had. I really wanted to see the world. I wanted to go on holidays, but we couldn't afford that. And then an interesting thing happened. I became the Israeli judo champion, and I was spotted for the national judo team. I was invited to train on the national judo team. The judo team was training. It took me 2 hours and 2 bus rides to get to the training. It was in a completely different city. To get to the training sessions, I used to go twice a week. The training sessions were, once it was an hour and a half, and on a Thursday, that was on a Tuesday, and on a Thursday was 2.5 hours. And I was one of the youngest team members. And it was very difficult, but I was used to that already. And like I said, I was the Israeli national judo team. And once I made the team and I started training there, they started sending me abroad. They sent me to competitions abroad. They sent me to training camps abroad. And guess what? It was fully paid for by the country. I got to go to hotels, restaurants, traveled with my friends. I had the most amazing time. And I never thought that would be the answer to my burning desire. It just happened on the way. You see, God set it up. So I could also travel abroad, and I was a judo champion, but I worked hard for it. You know, not everyone sent abroad from the national judo team. Every time they take the best people, there's an opening and they take the best people to a certain competition or to a certain training camp. So I had to constantly prove myself. So by the age of 18, I'd finished school. I'd been the national judo champion for 7 years running, and I'd flown all over the world. And then I injured my knee. I injured my knee, and I had to go through complicated surgery and a long rehabilitation, which was very painful and very difficult. It took me months to rehabilitate. But I was purpose driven. I decided that I wanted to do judo. I wanted to be a champion, and I would continue doing that. After I managed to rehabilitate myself, I got back onto the judo mat, and then I was recruited to the army. You see, the Israeli army, is compulsory for men and women at the age of 18 in Israel. Everyone has to go to the army. The thing is that if you're training twice a day, between an hour and a half to 2 hours and a half, every training session, it's very difficult to go to the army, because the army requires 24/7 commitment. So the army has a special program for elite athletes, and it lets the athletes keep on training while being in the army. So you're recruited to the army. I was recruited to the army as an elite athlete. I did the boot camp, the girls' boot camp. And a very interesting thing happened while I was doing the boot camp. You see, boot camp is 3 weeks period, a 3-week period when you can't train and do judo, you're just there. And you grow through this rigorous training, and you have to change your entire mindset, because you have to understand that now you're part of a system that's bigger than you, a system that has its own requirements. You can't do what you want. You can't complain. No one cares about your complaining. The system cares about itself. The system has targets. The system has goals, and you better meet those goals. You need to do what you're told. Those 3 weeks are a transition period when you understand that you're no longer the main issue. It's not about you anymore. It's about the army, and the army is there to protect the country. And that's your job right now. And during those 3 weeks, I realized that maybe as much as I wanted to be a champion, I didn't really enjoy doing judo so much. The training was very difficult. And what I enjoyed in the judo, I enjoyed winning. But winning is something that lasts a very short time, because as soon as you win and you first place, there's someone breathing down your neck, second place and third place. They all want to be first place. You're constantly having to keep at the first place. And I started feeling that judo might not be what I really want. And what I wanted was to do a meaningful service in the army. But there I was already labeled an elite athlete. I was on track to, after these 3 weeks, I was going to do a course and then some stupid job, basically, which will enable me to continue training with the judo. But it's not something I really wanted anymore. I started, like when you're with the GPS, you reassess your goals. You choose a new address. So I did the course. I was put as assistant library in the Marines library, where I had to input the magazines that came in each week. I just had to update the computer that the magazines had arrived. In the meantime, I was training in judo, and I kept on thinking, this is not what I really want to do. And then during a training session, what happened was I did a move and I threw someone over my shoulder and I fell on my knees, but the angle was a bit too sharp and I injured my second knee. And it was the night of New Year's Eve, 1998. And then I had to make this tough decision. Would I go do surgery again? Do the rehabilitation again? To keep on doing judo, what I've been doing all these years? Is this what I really want to do with my life? Or is it time to quit? Is this an opportunity to grow and learn something new in life? And I remember being on the phone with my ex-boyfriend all night. And judo was such a huge part of my identity. Every time they used to introduce me, this is the judo champion. I just didn't know myself without judo. And I was talking to him and he gave me the power. And we were saying 98 judo champion, 99 ex-judo champion. I woke up in the morning and I said, I'm going to quit judo. But I'm going to quit judo and I'm going to pursue my next goal. my next goal is going to be a boot camp instructor. I want to be a boot camp instructor for new women recruits, just like I had experienced now. I want to make a real change. But the thing is, the Israeli army, it doesn't give more than one course. It gives you one initial course that determines your position, and you don't get another course. They have a budget. You're in the system. That's how things work. And I had already gotten my course, and I was in that meaningless position as assistant librarian. And how was I going to become now a boot camp instructor? I remember thinking in the night, making plans. I couldn't sleep. I was obsessed with this mission. I found everyone I knew who knew anyone in the army to start. I had all these different connections, who knew someone who knows someone, because there's this one office, it's called the women's office, and they decide on the courses. And I got their phone number, and I phoned them every day, several times a day. And every time, I had the receptionist answer me, but I could never get to the decision maker. And I wrote them letters, and I kept on being told, you got one course. That's what we give. But I decided I wasn't going to give up. So what I did was, I knew where this office was. I knew where the base was. Being in the army, and it was a base that it was relatively easy to go into. So I woke up early in the morning, took the bus, got into that base, and I waited outside the office. The office was like a small caravan in front of a parking lot. And I waited there. Must have been 6 o'clock in the morning, because I didn't know what time exactly they started, but I made sure to be there first. And then I saw a woman soldier come out of a car. And I knew by her ranks that she was the top dog. She was the head of that office. And as soon as she came out of that car, I approached her because no one would let me speak with her on the phone. And I introduced myself, and I told her, listen, I apologize that I'm not approaching you through the formal and regular channels, but this is very, very important to me. And I think I've got a lot to give. I have a lot to give to the army, and I have a lot to give in this position, and I really, really want this. Will you help me? And she was so surprised, but she also saw how motivated I was and how much I cared, that she sent me to a course. She sent me to the course teaching me how to be a boot instructor, but there was a catch. The course wasn't the boot camp instructor for women. It was for men, for male recruits. And that I didn't expect. So I went to that course, and they almost threw me off the course 3 times because it was very difficult for me to. I used to laugh in all these different places where I was supposed to be serious, but I was good. But the discipline side of me wasn't so strong. But in that I made it. And I was sent to the boot camp for new male recruits from different backgrounds. You see, the Israeli army takes on new male recruits, which are also from difficult backgrounds. Maybe they might have some criminal backgrounds, because it wants to give them a chance to straighten up. Because research shows that even if you as a youth, you might be problematic, or you might do, things maybe not entirely by the book. If you do a good army service, if you manage to fit that mindset, which is not only about yourself, it's about fitting into the system and giving back, you can become a changed person. So this army does this program, and it's a very difficult program, also for the recruits and also for the commanders like me. And it's a selfless job, because most of the time these recruits, they complain. They try to do everything against you. And I remember sleeping 4 hours every night, having no free time, because They can't even go to the bathroom by themselves. You don't send them anywhere by themselves. They have to be with you all the time. Even you can't send them, you can't say, okay, in 5 minutes, I'll meet you at the canteen, because in those 5 minutes, you'll have 20 soldiers going to 20 different places in the base. You have to tell them 15 seconds, I want you all to run to that tree. And 15 seconds, after, once they've reached the tree, you say, okay, I'm opening my watch. You've got 15 seconds to reach the next tree. And that's how you get them to the canteen. And even after they finished eating, they don't go outside. They don't have a break. They have to sit outside in a special like shape, you know, in order. And that's where they have their break. Because if you give them a break, you give them 5 minutes where you're not looking at them, that's it. They're all over the show. So you can imagine how difficult it is as a commander being in that position. And especially for me, because I was an individual athlete, I was a champion, and I was trained to only care about my success, about how I become the champion. And it's a zero-sum game. I become the champion, and it's on the expense of everyone else I'm against. And I don't care, because I want to be number one, and that's what I'm going to be. And now here I am with these new recruits who don't care about what I've got to say. And they don't appreciate what I'm doing for them. And I have to put my all, give my all to them. It's a bit like being a parent, but much more difficult. in some cases. So in that short time when I became a boot camp instructor, I managed to do the switch. It was a painful switch. It was very intense, but I managed to do the switch from being someone who's selfish and becoming selfless. And I'm very thankful for that. And that's part of my journey. And then I decided my next goal was I wanted to teach. I wanted to be in the course teaching women how to do my job, how to be boot camp instructors for new recruits. And then again, everyone told me, listen, you can't go out to this. We don't send people from this base to that course. And then again, I had to fight. I remember coming to the commander of my base and asking his help. And I had to fight, and then I became a commander in the course, teaching women how to be boot camp instructors for new male recruits. And then this was a totally different story, because these women are super motivated. They're not like the other soldiers. Now you're teaching women who want to learn. So it's a completely different experience. Later, when I left the army, and I was very thankful to leave the army. You know, it's 2 years, and I did my calling. It was very difficult. I learned enough, but I learned a lot, but it was enough. You know, you want your freedom. And what happens to most Israelis after they go to the army and it's so intense and they don't have their freedom, they just want to break free. They want to fly abroad. They fly to the Far East. They fly to South America. They fly to Australia, New Zealand. They all need to clean their minds after such an experience. But in order to do that, you need money. If you want to go traveling for a year or 2 years. So that's when I went to England. I flew to England. And what I did was I used to sell sandwiches. I lived in a flat with another 7 people. And every morning I used to get on a bicycle, and the bicycle had a tram at its back, like a trolley. And in the trolley were sandwiches and soup and crisps. That's what the English people love. They love their crisps. And I used to go by bicycle, ride the bicycle all over London to offices and sell them their food. And it used to rain, it used to snow. And I was there on the bicycle, riding every day, uphill, downhill, picking up these huge trays with the sandwiches and the crisps and the soup. Because I wanted to make money. I wanted to travel. And every time, you see, I had a burning desire, and it changed. Every time I followed the desire, I wanted to travel. I found a way to do it. Then I found this job. And then I found I wanted to make more money. This job was 5 days a week. I wanted to work 7 days a week. At the time, I wasn't religious. So I worked on Saturday. Now, as a religious Jew, I don't work on Saturday. I used to work in the pub. In the morning, I used to go Saturday, Sunday. I used to go to a pub, a rowing club, and they had a pub there. And I had to cook them breakfast. So while the English people were rowing on the freezing Thames, which I never understood why, in the snow, they used to go out rowing. They used to choose this. This was their hobby. Their hobby was to row in freezing cold water at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning on a weekend. It was beyond me. But when they came back from the freezing cold water, they had breakfast. There was warm porridge. And who made that porridge? I did. I used to cook the porridge for them in the mornings. And I used to work 7 days a week because I had my burning desire to travel and see the world. And then when I traveled and saw the world, I saved enough money. I went to the Far East. I traveled to Thailand, Laos, India. I started thinking, what was I going to do in my life? What was I calling? And I was thinking, should I be a homeopath? Should I study business? These were the two things that interested me. My uncle was one of the top homeopaths in the world. I knew about homeopathy, and I kept on saying, it's very, very interesting, but I also love business. And I remembered my cousins, I had English cousins, and they told me, listen, when they were in high school, they had working experience. What does that mean? It means that 2 weeks you go to a job and you experience the job. You see how it feels to go in the morning to that job, stay there all day, and come back in the evening. Because you see, most people, they have this idea about the job, and it's not necessarily how the job is. You know, I used to watch LA Law when I was small. So I thought that lawyers had a lovely, fascinating, interesting life. But it turns out that could be really boring. So everyone has a fantasy about the job. And that's why before I told myself this work experience, we don't have it in Israel, but I think that my cousins in England, that's a very good idea. I will create my own work experience. Before I choose to be a homeopath or I choose to be in business, I will go and experience it for myself. So I sat in India, I found a homeopath. I went there for a few weeks. Every day I sat with him all day and I experienced homeopathy and I loved it. And I said, okay, homeopathy is great. I want to check out business. So I did my idea of business. I bought all these leather bags in India, and I bought beadies, and I flew back to England, and I opened a stall in Camden Market, and I rented a stall in Portobello, and I tried selling these bags and these beadies, and I didn't sell one bag. You see, I didn't know, I had no connections, and they put me, because they didn't know me, they put me in the stalls in the far area where no one came. No one even passed next to my stall. And no one would buy beadies from me. Everyone wanted to buy beadies. I wanted to sell the beadies wholesale, but they wouldn't pay me enough money. So I decided that on principle, I'm not going to sell these beadies. So I was carrying around this bag with huge amount of beadies. You know what beadies are? They're just like small cigarettes. They're made out of a leaf, and you close them with a red thread, and people smoke them. And it's supposed to be really cool. And at the time, I must say, I'm ashamed to say that my principles weren't very high. I was looking to see how I'm going to make money. And I knew that in India, they were sold for 3 rupees a pack. And in England, they sold for £1 a pack. So I tried selling them to all these shops in England, but they all wanted to give me £100 for about 700 beadies. And I didn't think it was a good enough price. So these beadies I put those beadies back in my relative's house, and they were rotting in the garage. And I didn't make any money because I didn't take that opportunity for selling them for £100 because I had principles. So that was a lesson. And then I went to another relative of mine in Mallorca, and he does paper trading. And he does not paper trading, he does trading. He trades on the markets. He buys and sells stocks. And he taught me how to buy and sell, and I did paper trading. I used to buy and sell stocks in theory. I wrote down on paper, now I'm selling 100 stock. Let's see if the graph, if the stock goes up or down. And I learned something very interesting about myself. I found that even when I lost money on paper, not real money, on paper, it ruined my day. I became so stressed and irritable just because I lost money in theory that I told myself, listen, maybe business isn't for you. That was my idea of business at the time. Go study homeopathy. So I was thinking where I was going to learn homeopathy. I inquired, my uncle told me, listen, there's a very good school for homeopathy in Israel. I went and studied homeopathy. Now, at the time, I was looking for a job in Israel and I couldn't find any work. And a father of my sister's friend was working for the airport security. And I gave him my CV and I told him, listen, if you can find a job for me, that would be great. I always said to myself, if I don't find a job, worst case scenario, I'll work for the airport security. I couldn't find any job. I was invited to these two interviews for the airport security. I came there early in the morning. There were all these plastic chairs. They were interviewing hundreds of people. And my name came up. And the woman comes to call me. I stand up. She comes to call me. And as we're going to the table, before the interview starts, he tells me, you're not a student next year, are you? You're not planning to study next year. I'm like, of course, I've already enrolled for homeopathic school. So she's like, listen, this job is not for students. I didn't even make it to the table. And I didn't even sit down at the chair. And I'm like, what? She says, yes, we don't hire students in their first year. I said, okay, goodbye. I got onto the bus. And on the way home on the bus was the longest bus ride because that was my last option. It was my last hope. I was devastated. I was building on that job to keep me while I was a student. And all the way back, I was just telling myself like a mantra, I was saying, God provides, God provides, God provides. All the way home, that's the only thing I knew how to do. I just kept on saying, God provides, God provides, God provides, God provides. I come off the bus. As soon as I step off the bus, I'm promising you, I get this phone call. And I answer the phone. And they say, hello, we're speaking from El Al Airlines. I'm like, hi, we understand we got your CV and we understand you're looking for a job. I tell them, yes, I know, but I'm a student. It's not relevant. So she said, no, we're looking exactly for students. And I'm like, wow, you are? Now, I didn't know that he gave my CV also to the airline. And that's how I landed this job with El Al for El Al Security. And little did I know that the conditions, the working conditions for El Al Security for the airline were much, much better than working at the airport. And during that time, as I started working for El Al, and I started learning homeopathy at the homeopathic school, I heard a lecture from a visiting lecturer here in Israel. He came from the United States, from Arizona. And as soon as I saw him, it was a one-day open lecture for everyone. I said, this is the man I want to learn homeopathy from. How am I going to learn homeopathy from him? He lives in Arizona. He teaches in Flagstaff at the north of Arizona. How am I going to do that? And guess what? El Al Airlines, they give their employees discount tickets. After 6 months working in El Al, I could get discount tickets all over the world, but they limit the number of tickets you can get. And I wanted to fly every month to Arizona to learn from this guy. He was the top homeopath as far as I'm concerned, and I learned from the best. So I went to my manager and we went to the supervisor and I spoke to everyone and I explained my situation and I got a special permit from the airline to buy a limitless amount of tickets. And like you see, these tickets, they're discounted, but there's a catch. You fly standby. What does that mean? If the airplane is full, you don't get on the plane. It's only if there's a seat that you get to be on the plane. And in order to get to Arizona, it's not one flight, it's 2 flights. And sometimes you can arrive in New York, and there was room on the plane to New York, but in New York, lo and behold, all the flights to New York are taken, they're full, and you're stuck in New York. So I used to buy tickets to go through New York, to go through Toronto, to go through LA, and to go through Delta. I think it was Texas. And every time I used to do my research, I used to know all the airlines. I used to check the flights on all the airlines to see where was the best chance I had to get on. And I used to fly every time to a different destination. And there were times when I wasn't on the plane. And you know when I realized that I didn't have a seat on the plane? Only after I saw through the window that the plane was taking off. Because no one really bothered telling me, because I was only standby, and they don't really they don't really care about standby flights. I'm not a paying passenger, you know. I'm at the bottom of the pecking pecking list, like you say. So the stress, but for 5 or 6 years, I used to fly every month to Arizona. And the rest of the time, I used to work 14-hour shift to pay for my studies. They cost me about $2,000 a month. The flights, the hotel stay, the tuition. But I decided I wanted to be the best homeopath in the world, and that's what I was going to learn from the best. And 6 years later, you know what happened? I was a great homeopath. And I thought people would come knocking at my door because I'm such a good homeopath. I would have so many clients. And you know what? No one came. No one knew I was good. No one cared. They didn't come. And I was trying to get, phony people in Israel, trying to give free lectures out. But I had hardly any clients, and I was good. I knew my stuff. And I remember praying to God one day. I was sitting in front of the computer, sending cold emails to these places, offering my services for free lectures. And I was just telling God, listen, I've done so much hard work to be in my position today, to study as a homeopath. I've got so much to give. Please help me get clients, help me get patients. And I kid you not, that day, I got an email from this woman. Her name was Hannah. And it was a cold email. And she says, listen, and this email wrote, listen, do you want leads for your business? We can help you create business. We can help you with the sales. We can help you with the marketing. And I'm like, my God, this is a sign. I just got a cold email. It was unbelievable. Through my website. And I met with Hannah, and it was this advertising office. And what they did was they not only helped you with the advertising, they also trained you in the sales and the marketing. They taught you how to sell, which is what you have to do. Most business owners say, listen, I'll be great in my profession, but they don't know how to sell their services. They don't know how to market. So they're very good professionals, but they don't know how to make their business work. And I met with this advertising company, and they wanted so much money to begin with. They wanted so much money every month. And I was like, wow, okay, I'm going to do this. So I used to work so hard every month to pay them, but they trained me and they advertised me. And that's how I kickstarted my homeopathic clinic. And after a while, I learned how to sell. I learned how to market. And the people, I already got people, I got referrals. People were referring people to me because they had such great success, and they saw results. They saw results with the homeopathy that I didn't need to advertise anymore. But I had to take that leap. I was paying them, I think, $4,000 a month for their services. It was a huge amount for me. Everything I used to work for during the month was just to pay for them. But I realized that was the stepping stone. Okay? And now I have a thriving homeopathic business. I'm the CEO of an access control company. I'm also an extrasensory business consultant. And my whole life, I've been guided by these burning desires, which keep on changing, but I keep on following. And I'm willing to do the work. And I see that God keeps his side of the bargain. He's there for me. The universe is there for me. Okay? And that's why I want you each to remember, each one of us has a soul. Each soul has a mission, and its mission is to bring its unique light into this world. You listen to your soul, you listen to your burning desires, you are willing to do the work, the universe will help you out. Remember, the pain, the hardship, the challenges are there to help you build your vessel. Your vessel will be strong, it will be pure. You can bring your unique light into this world. You and God want the same thing for you. God wants you to be happy. He wants you to be healthy. He also wants you to do your mission in life. And most of us grow very well through pain, unfortunately. That's when we grow the fastest. So when you look at life and you understand that every adversity, every challenge is there for you to help you grow, nothing seems the same again. That's the mindset. And that's a lesson I want you to take from my talk today, because it changed my life, and I'm hoping it will change yours and anyone else you can share this lesson with.
Thank you so much, Tehilla, for this absolutely fabulous presentation. It was inspiring, and we can really see that you have persevered.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So we'll go on to a few questions now. The first question is, was there any backlash from other people who questioned your decisions?
Yes, of course. Listen, life is full of people questioning your decisions. It's a given. It's part of the deal. People will always think they know better than you what's good for you. And especially the people that are close to you. However, when you listen to your soul, you know what's best for you, but it's very important to do things with grace, okay? Because it's a very fine line between, disrespecting someone that cares about you, usually your parents, people close to you, they want the best for you, okay? But you usually do have the answers and they might not. However, they have good intentions. They care about you. So it's very important not to burn your bridges, okay? To be respectful of them, to understand where they're coming from, that they're coming from a place that they love and care about you, and just do your own thing. Okay, so when I had, my grades could earn me a full scholarship in a university, okay? And when my father heard I wanted to study homeopathy, and I wouldn't, privately, instead of going to get this university degree, he was devastated. But, as much as I love my father, and I just couldn't do it. I can't grow, please just make decisions because I want to please my father. I had to follow my calling.
I agree with that. Yeah, completely. Mm-hmm. Could you share a bit more about business consulting and how did you start? Okay, so like I said, if you remember, I was always thinking whether I should study business or homeopathy, and I'm very happy I studied homeopathy, and I'll tell you why. One time, I met this diamond dealer. Now, don't think that I meet diamond dealers every day, okay? But I happened to meet him. And he told me this, and I remember this all my life. He told me, when I buy a diamond, I don't look at the diamond. I look at the person selling the diamond. And it's the same thing, when you buy a used car. You don't look at the car. You look at the person selling the car. Business is all about people. And it's about people and universal principles of abundance. And studying homeopathy is based on spiritual principles of health and abundance. When I studied homeopathy, I learned about people. I learned about abundance. I learned about health. And then I could apply what I learned in homeopathy, these principles, in business. Because what I saw, what I can see in my 20 years of counseling,
that in order for a business to thrive, its owner has to thrive. Especially small businesses are a reflection of their owner. And that's why if you want your business to thrive, you have to be healthy. Healthy not only physically, but also mentally and emotionally. You have to have a healthy mindset. You have to have a win-win mindset, because you're looking at long-term relationships. You're looking at compound interests. And when you work that way, and you send a coherent message to the universe, and you have a burning desire to succeed, that's one of the keys to succeed in business.
That was great advice. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
The next question we have here is, if you could do one thing differently in your life, what would you have done?
Well, the way I think it's a difficult question, because like I said, our life is a journey. And this journey is there in order for us to develop our unique skill set. All the hardships, the challenges we face, they're there in order to develop us. And you know what they say, when the pupil is ready, the teacher appears. So I always try to live my life making the most of what I can in my current position. I don't want to ever regret not trying hard enough, not doing enough. And then when I look back, I can always say, you know, I did my best with the tools and the knowledge I had at the time. And that's enough. You don't have to. One of the things I realized is when I was young, I wanted to change the whole world. And I wanted to, you know, achieve my goals really fast. And now I realize things are a journey, and that it's not my job to change the whole world. My job is to help people that want my help, that I come across, that I come in contact with. It's not my job. It's up to God to change the whole world, and he knows what he's doing. I have to do my side of the bargain. When I do my side of the bargain, God will do his part. And I might, what do you mean I might? For sure, I don't understand what God's doing. I don't understand why, you know, there are floods and earthquakes here, and why, you know, these huge companies steal from everyone and they still succeed. But I know, I trust that it's part of the plan. And I trust that if I do my part, the rest will just happen.
Right. So the last question that we have here is, do you have any future goals, professional or personal?
Well, as I've grown, my goals are more, I'd say, they're not like I want to fly abroad and be the judo champion. They're more focused on my personal development, meaning I want to be able to bring more light into the world. They're more abstract, and I'm leaving more room for God to direct me. So now, in the recent years, I've become an extrasensory business advisor. That means that I can see things, that I get information, that extrasensory information that I can use to help people and their businesses. And that's what I'm working on now. I use homeopathy and my extrasensory business perceptions in a technique called bioergonomy, which I won't get into now, in order to help people grow and help their businesses grow. And in the future, I want to help more and more people, and I want to be open to see what God has in store for me. I just want to keep my eyes open. I want to keep my heart opening and see where my burning desire will take me in order to take me to the next level and bring my unique light into this world.
Once again, thank you so much for this fabulous presentation. I think our audience is completely inspired. We're getting so many comments here in the chat. Thank you so much to the audience for engaging, and we hope you enjoyed. If you need any more details, please visit our website, spunkgo.com. Thank you, everyone, and have a good day ahead.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.